See, hey guys. Hey guys, happy Friday. Today is Friday, October 25th, right? 25th, October 25th. It's the TED Show, TGIF. I'm super excited and having the best conversation with my guest, my friend here, Jen Vargas.
Hello, everyone.
Who brought this cool little contraption that we are watching the show on, which I love. We're going to talk about FilmSlam. We're going to talk about making strides. We're going to talk about Faire, right? Orlando. And we're going to talk about film. We're going to talk about all sorts of amazing things, and Jen's going to share her story and her journey. So, what's the most important? Give us a thumbs up. Let us know you can hear us or see us. I don't know if you know this, but on the business pages, that live number means nothing because people can hide themselves. So sometimes people pop on. It takes them a few minutes. Sometimes people stay in the background. I checked it out. I think we're good to go. I love the look of the room with this additional camera thing on it. This, what did you call it? You guys can't see it, but I'm going to utilize this more.
It's a wide-angle lens.
A wide-angle lens. This is what happens when you're 85 years old and you're trying to learn newfangled tools. So welcome to the show. We have a lot to talk about, I think. You have a lot of things that you're involved in, and I can tell that you have a lot of knowledge, which I love to tap people's brains because this brain can't hold too much knowledge. Anyway, enough about me. Give them a little background on you. People like to know the Jen Vargas story, maybe origin story, where you're from, and then we can get your journey on how you got here.
Sure. Obviously, my name is Jen Vargas. I'm a Sagittarius.
A Sagittarius.
Enjoy long walks on the beach. I was born in Los Angeles, California, and my mom moved us here to Orlando to be closer to my grandparents at a very early age. I didn't really have a choice in the matter, but I would go back and forth every few summers or so just to kind of go back to California. It changed every single time, so even if I went back now, I wouldn't recognize a lot of things.
LA is so different too.
It is
it's
lot
completely different. Yeah, everything's changed. Well, Orlando's changed too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's just so much. But I'm fascinated. So you sort of had LA in your blood, which is, I always think of LA, Hollywood, the film capital of the world. So
yes.
Did you come here? Came here to be with your grandparents. Did you have any kind of film background in your life? Did you? Or did that come later on? Did you develop a love for it?
Well, that came later on, but interesting tidbit that I found funny, when I went to film school, my mom told me the hospital I was born in. I was born in a Kaiser Permanente on Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, you were on Sunset.
Yes.
Nice.
So like 3 miles or so from Grauman's Chinese Theater. So I
you
thought
never
that was
know.
funny.
The universe was conspiring at that time too to kind of bring you into film. All right. So early on, did you always know that you wanted to be a filmmaker, be in film, be involved in the process of film?
Well, my early passion was in the theater. So I cut my teeth, so to speak, in elementary school, middle school, and then high school in the theater. Music was also a love. Film is not something that came along until I started volunteering at the Florida Film Festival in the early 2000s, and I was a volunteer there for 10 years or so, and that kind of predicated my decision to go to film school, and went to film school locally, graduated 2006.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Very cool.
The school doesn't exist anymore, so I don't like to give it any publicity, but I met
That
some great people
happens.
there. Yeah.
What was the impetus though? Because a lot of times theater and film, it's not as much of a natural progression as you would think, right?
Not so much, but with all of the theater, the live theater from like Fathom events and things that are happening, you'd be surprised at how much production behind the camera is involved in theater now.
Interesting. So you went from theater and musical and then film. What did you want to be? Did you want to be in front of the camera, behind the camera, a combination of both?
Well, because my love was music before anything. Oh, thanks for the hearts.
Oh, Dallas.
Hey.
She's walking tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
She's walking tomorrow for sure. I think, right? Oh, Dallas, you're walking tomorrow and making strides for breast cancer. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Hello. So your love for music. So that's in front.
Yeah, so what originally I wanted to go to college for, I wanted to be a music supervisor. which is the person who is responsible for essentially booking the music on a film, clearing the rights and different things like that. But since my little film school didn't have that track, I somehow got thrown into producing because I have a human resource background. I've worked as an administrative assistant, was quite organized on set. Perhaps the most organized person. I also had skills of diplomacy where other people probably did not. So I kind of got thrown into producing, and then that's what I've been doing ever since.
So you fell into it, but you love it.
I do love it. I love helping people put together their stories, their documentary. I like being in the thick of production.
Because as a producer, right?
Yeah.
You bring, you help them bring that vision to life for film.
Yes.
Because you have this amazing vision or you have this amazing story, maybe you've even shot it. I mean, who knows? But you have to have somebody who can help you bring it, and then so that people can view it and make sense of it. Because it's not all about just making it for home videos. This is real stuff. So you're making it, and you want to have your message. Isn't that part of the cathartic process when you're a filmmaker? You're basically birthing this idea, this creativity, and putting it on film for people to see.
Yeah, and a lot of people enjoy the films that are put out there and whatnot, but at the end of the day, filmmaking is a business. Whether you're an independent filmmaker making films for money or a distributor or whatnot, or if you're doing it for a studio. So you have to, a lot of what I see in filmmakers, particularly with FilmSlam, they go across it as a creative, and that's how I did it too.
Sure.
In the very beginning, it's like, I just want to be creative. I don't want to be worried about the business side, but you have to be worried about protecting yourself, protecting your brand, protecting your brand would be your movie essentially. So like forming an LLC and registering your scripts.
So you really do, because I think you're right. So you've got both sides of it. You've got the creative. And you're right. I feel like most creatives I meet, I'm a creative at heart. The minutia of the details of protecting myself or looking out for the business side of it, I've been blessed enough to surround myself with producers basically my whole life that take care of those details. You have to have somebody in your corner, or you have to know what you're doing, and really you should have both. You should really have both, because you want to, just because they're in your circle doesn't mean they're in your corner. We talk about that on the show a lot.
That's
so you have
true.
to be so careful
that
you're trusting the right person. And the only way to know if they're doing the right thing is for you to have the basic knowledge. So you can be a creative, but you have to educate yourself, and you have to understand the laws and the copyright laws and the what happens when you sign a contract laws and all those crazy things that no creative wants to deal with on any basis.
Or even having contracts. A lot of independent people are guerrilla filmmaking, run and gun, like get your shot when you get it, with the people if you have them. And a lot of people think producing, and it is money, executive producing, bringing money to the table and such, but there's also locations, there's craft services, how you're going to feed people, there's talent. And just there's a multitude of different levels to producing, and it all depends on what you want your focus to be. My knack is sort of helping gather resources. I'm not so much on the fundraising end because all my friends are in the arts and we're poor right now. But it's as far as like getting to know people and being networked and just knowing your resources. It's something that they taught me at Apple when I worked there. Know your resources. Knowing my resources, it's proved very handy, and a lot of unexpected resources happened. Like I've gotten a lot of resources from my volunteer work with American Cancer Society with making strides against breast cancer. And a lot of it came from there, and it's just volunteering my time so much that you never know who you're going to meet when you volunteer.
I want to talk about volunteerism a lot, but I want to talk about FilmSlam first.
Sure.
And then I want to talk about, because I just taught a class at Valencia about you, no matter what your career is, your volunteering and your community service are so important for your future business and for what you want to do with your life, because you never know what resource you're going to meet. You never know what person. Plus you get the joy of helping other people. All right, so let's talk. We're going to talk about that in a minute. let's talk about FilmSlam.
Yes.
So what was the impetus there? Tell us about what FilmSlam is.
So FilmSlam was a program that started 2004 to 2005 at the DMAC. What was the DMAC, which is the Rogers Keene building here in downtown Orlando, was started independently, was always its own thing. And when the DMAC closed in 2006, we moved over to another local venue, Indian Theater. And we've been there for
beautiful there.
13 years or so. And Indian is retooling a lot of their programs now. So everything happened over there. They decided to go another direction, and I decided to take FilmSlam elsewhere.
You did?
Yes. So
Awesome.
I don't have news on a venue yet, but we're very, very close to another home, another temporary home. So FilmSlam, I took over officially probably 4.5 years ago, almost 5. And I took it on full blast.
And what is it?
FilmSlam, to those who don't know, is an independent filmmaker screening series. Only Florida filmmakers. We screen short films, 20 minutes and under, and I have a program of about 60 minutes per month that we show. So I can fit anywhere from 6 to 8 to sometimes 10 films, depending on how short they are.
Wow.
So if we have a lot of 3-minute films or 5-minute films, I can program a lot within 60-minute period. But if we have others that are like 15, 20 minutes, then that cuts the field down
Hence the slam.
Yes.
All right. See, I'm a little slow, but now I get it as you're telling me.
Yeah.
Okay, so because you're packing in a lot of films, a lot of creativity, a lot of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears
Yes.
into that 60-minute period.
Yes, and speaking of volunteer, I've done it for free. On the down low, I did the social media. I started the social media about 9 or so years ago, and I've been involved with FilmSlam almost since the beginning. I went to the DMAC screenings probably a handful of times, but once it moved over to Indian, it was a place that I knew, and started getting involved there. And Tim Anderson was the host. John Thiessen was the host before him. John handed reins over to Tim. Tim handed reins over to me in 2015, and from then on, we are moving forward. And
So you haven't announced the venue.
No.
Do you have a date yet of when? Like, are you gonna? How often does this happen?
It's every month.
It is every month. Okay.
January will be our date. I haven't released dates yet. I typically don't until mid-November.
Okay.
Which is traditionally how people are used to them. I have some cool announcements, but I can't say anything.
That's
yet.
okay. We're just happy that you have a place.
Yes.
And so so if a filmmaker is watching, which they will, if they aren't now, as we post to all of our film and theater and creative groups.
Yes.
If a filmmaker has a film that they've done and they want to submit it, what's the process?
The process was in online format. So you won't have to mail in a disc or mail in a thumb drive or anything like that. So it's all online. I am setting up a new portal for that. I'm thinking we're probably going to go Film Freeway, which is where a lot of filmmakers submit to different festivals, like a repository
Very cool.
of film festivals.
Didn't even know that existed.
Yes.
That's
There's
so
Without
awesome.
a Box as well, but Film Freeway is the more popular one.
And then once you
Looking
have
into
the
that.
dates, you'll be able to have a calendar.
Yes.
And then you'll be able to let us know how people can go view it once a month, right? Because
Yes.
just because you've submitted it, don't you want to have an audience? We want to have
Yes.
people who want to experience that, because sometimes I joke that I have the attention span of a gnat, and sometimes having that shorter film, just because it's a short film doesn't mean it's not super impactful.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that it's not going to move you or motivate you, which I absolutely love. So I did one film festival. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a screening of a whole bunch of short films, and it was at the theater in Winter Park Village.
Okay.
And it was so much fun. Why? Because they were about 3 to 6 minutes, and there were maybe 5 of them total.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating because you just jumped literally from movie to film, and it was I loved every second of it. I thought it was awesome.
Yes.
And any topic limitations, like it doesn't matter. Is there anything that has anything surprised you over? Is there a film, or are there films? And I know it's kind of like being the mom or dad, and you can't really pick a favorite child. But is there anything that surprises you about that when people are making those films?
Well, Florida's independent filmmaker, there are a ton of us out there, and we're all doing different things. Obviously, we have to pay the bills, so we may not be working in the creative field that we want, but people are still creating art out there and submitting it to FilmSlam. The most that I've seen is our production value has gone up quite a bit from the early days. The early days were a little rough. Obviously,
well, is that because
no
technology? Because you were talking about technology, right? So we were talking about the show. Even my show has progressed in 2 years.
Right.
The technology available out there in a single spot, like your phone or a camera, there's so much more built in. So I would imagine the quality.
Yeah, technology has definitely bolstered that up.
Yeah.
However, I always like to see a short film that just is adventurous.
Yeah.
That it's got some gravitas to it that's ambitious. I don't like to see wide, medium, close shots on a tripod, very plain. I don't like to see all handheld shaky cam. Like, I like to see ambitious narratives, ambitious shots, the different ways that filmmakers incorporate music and underscore. There are some people that don't have any underscore. Their sound is terrible. And it's funny, I can actually tell where a film comes from. Like which local film school, I can tell where it comes from based on the film and what I
Isn't that interesting? Well, you get used to it, and then you realize where the quality, what type of quality, what you're getting, what level of quality.
Yeah.
All right, so does FilmSlam have you're creating the platform, but you have a URL still? Or what's the URL?
thefilmslam.com.
Okay, so and we're going to share all of this, but you have the Facebook page because I've tagged it.
Yep.
And of course, Jen is available anytime, and I want to focus on that, but I don't want to forget about the two other things. Look at that. All right, so making strides for breast cancer.
Making strides against breast cancer.
Making strides against breast cancer. Walk, basically, it's a walk.
It is.
Tomorrow, here downtown. Will you share a little bit about that? And then if you feel good about sharing your story, comfortable sharing your story,
sure.
Tell us why you're involved, because you obviously are in pink. Guys, don't give me a hard time. It looks purple on here, but this is pink. And I've got some pink somewhere. It's here. I just ran out of pink jackets, if you can believe it, because we've been doing so much about breast cancer awareness, because this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month and we're closing it out. So talk about making strides against breast cancer.
Yes, well, thank you for helping people get the message out there, because that's the most important part, is having people get checked. We were talking about early detection. That's crucially important. So making strides against breast cancer Orlando, we are the largest attended Making Strides walk in the United States.
Wow.
So New York is the largest fundraiser, obviously per capita. They have more money and richer people, I guess. I don't know. But as far as attendees go, we have 70,000 people who attend our walk annually. And that's the people who we can count. If you go to orlandostrides.com, you can register for the walk for free. And also, if you're a survivor, register as a survivor, we have a survivor tent where the Zetas, the sorority, they go all out for the
Zeta
survivor
Tau
tent.
Alpha. I have lots of old friends from there.
Yes, the Zetas go. They just go all out for the survivors. Massages, goodie bags, refreshments. They have a tent where they're out of the sun. VIP access to like restrooms and first aid and things like that, in case they've got a great the stage is here, the tent is here, so they have a great vantage point of the stage. We do something really cool for them during the opening ceremonies as well. So registration begins at 7. Opening ceremonies begin at 7:30, and then the walk itself starts at 9 o'clock. So road closures, if you live downtown, make sure you're aware of those. Robinson, Roseland, and different routes.
Where does it start at? It start down near the Shell, near the Lake Eola?
Where EON
that way, guys.
is?
Yes, where EON is.
I
The old
think
Panera used to be there.
Correct.
It's like Washington and
the Day Building.
yeah, the Day
is over
Building.
there.
Yeah.
That's where we were at the band shell, but it just got to be too clumpy.
much, yeah.
It was too.
Yeah.
It was very hard to maneuver around there. So we start at that northeast corner of Lake Eola, and then the route goes around. The route map is on our Facebook page and also on.
So you can still register if you want to walk.
Absolutely.
You can still register as a survivor to
Yep.
get all that wonderful VIP treatment that the Zetas give.
Yes.
I love that. They've been doing that for so long. They adopted
Yeah.
Making Strides. It's like that's their charity.
Their national.
It's their
sponsor.
national sponsor. I know Dallas will be there. She's a survivor, she says.
Yay!
She came on the show last week or the week before. She's amazing. But yeah, she'll be there. But yeah, there's still time. So if you want to get out and walk, if you're a survivor and just want to come out and participate, you can go to Making Strides.
OrlandoStrides.com.
Orlando Strides, my bad. And we're going to share that too. OrlandoStrides.com. I did tag the event in the post. You guys can obviously go there on Facebook, and it'll lead you to the same. I'm sure it'll lead you to the same registration page at some point.
Yes.
So yeah, you got to have all that social media. You got to have everything these days. So that's tomorrow, and then Breast Cancer Awareness Month closes out on the 31st.
Yes.
And then, but it's been a very big, successful month. I've had multiple people. I was sharing one story with you. Multiple people who have gone and gotten early detection. One has found something, so you guys just never know. I can't stress it enough that you need to go in and get that. I don't care how young you are. I think you should still go get it. I've had a friend, a personal close friend, baseline, very first one, stage 3 or 4. She'll correct me, but I think it was 4. It was rough, but thank God she went, because you don't know if she'd be here with us if she hadn't. And then you got to give a shout out to all the caregivers. You got to give a shout out to everybody who gets involved, because it's a big, giant change of life journey when you're going through it. And you've got to, we were talking about this earlier before the show, Jen and I, you've got to realize that there are so many moving parts. It's not just you're diagnosed and you go to the doctor and you get treatment and it's over.
Right.
There's caregivers, there is transportation, there's work, there's feeling like horrible, terrible as the patient. There's surgeries. It's just the amount of people who touch that person's life and who have to touch that person's life in order for that life to continue and push through what they're dealing with is tremendous. So really remember that when you're making your donations, when you're doing things, that there are so many people that it impacts when you go out and do a walk like Making Strides, or when you get involved in anything that is breast cancer awareness.
And I, just to share my personal story with cancer, I, so far, lightly knock on wood, have not been diagnosed with breast cancer, but I'm almost the only one in my family that hasn't.
Wow.
My mom, Pam, was diagnosed with breast cancer, stage 4, in 2014, in July 2014. And she was given a very grim prognosis. They told her to get her affairs in order in the emergency room. It was that bad. There was she had kept a tumor to herself for about 6 months or more. And she had been previously diagnosed with uterine cancer, stage 1. And she had lost both her brother and sister and her sister-in-law to cancer. So that shook her. In 2010, in 2014, with the tumor being so large that formed on her right breast, and that she kept to herself, and that she fought for 6 years after. Like, she hooked up with a great oncologist, Dr. Kalpesh Barot, and a great radiology oncologist, Dr. Maureen Holisek, over in the Orlando Health, P. Phillips area. My mom was a brave woman. She was very determined. She would fight with all her might. She worked full time throughout her. She retired about this time last year. She was 69 when she retired.
Wow.
She worked for a company that's now downtown called DPR Construction. They took amazing care of her and me as her caregiver.
Wow.
And she passed away in March, and it's been really tough. I've had a lot of stuff going on. I've had to deal with probate, because I encouraged my mom through encouragement for me to do a living will just so I would know what she would want to do.
Sure.
And she just didn't want to have that conversation. She wanted to stay positive. She didn't want to focus on any of that. She was trying to do everything to kind of expunge the negativity from her life, and she saw that as a negative thing. So given the fact that she was given such a grim diagnosis in the beginning, she fought through, she did over 180 weeks of chemo, Taxol and Herceptin.
Oh my gosh.
And then she had a double mastectomy last January, and did a lymph node biopsy. About 24 lymph nodes were biopsied from her armpit. She went through 85 rounds of radiation after that, all of last year. And she had a rough year. This woman's 69, and she was still trying to work, and
God bless her.
Still trying to get everything. I had ankle surgery last year, which made her last year a living hell for me, because I couldn't weight bear. So it was a struggle to try and take care of her, to get her to radiation. She was wiped out, and just the life of a caregiver is something I would wish on no one, and I would wish on everyone at the same time.
Sure.
Because there's just so much involved. There's so much stress involved. There's a lot of things. My mom allowed me to be very public with her journey. I've used the hashtag HiPam, and she didn't understand it at first. She was very much not a spotlight person. She didn't like attention. She liked to give to other people. She didn't want any of that focused on her, but she understood why I was sharing her journey, and I shared it from day one of chemo to her last day, and I still do. And it was more of an educational tool. It's like, what's the difference between a PICC line and a port? What are the advantages and disadvantages of that? Different forms of chemo, what do they treat?
Because sometimes, well, a lot of times, you don't know this until you are in the midst of the throes of the journey.
Right.
And it seems like your doctor's office would tell you everything, or you could go online, because we all Google everything these days. And until you're in the middle of it, you don't know. And sometimes while you're going through it, you still don't know. You have to learn. Yeah. And that learning is a challenge while you're trying to keep your mental state where it needs to be.
Yeah.
You're physically feeling, though, probably the worst you've ever felt. And then you know that you're dependent on people. I mean, the psychological part of everything, and that's why being cognizant and respectful and helpful in any way, shape, or form that you can when it comes to somebody who's going through it, because remember, it's not just them going through it.
Yeah.
The caregiver, the family, in a different way, and certainly don't have the disease in their body, but they are still going through their own journey, and they need help.
Yes.
They need assistance, they need support, and they need to find an easy way to get that, which is what we're all kind of working on when we're raising awareness and trying to raise more funds for everything to do with breast cancer.
Yeah, regardless of any cancer or illness, don't ever forget about the caregivers. And I didn't realize this until after everything was done, but how important respite time is.
Yeah.
Like, to just be able to get out and go to Target, and just get out of the house, go to Target, get in the car and drive to Wawa even. Like that, those were just times where I could take a breath a little bit, have time for myself, and just kind of clear my head before I had to go back to everything. And it's not easy, and it's kind of burdensome sometimes, but I do not regret any of the 9 years that I was with my mom and helped take care of her. I helped her go to work. She fought the fight. I just tried to help make it more comfortable.
I love that.
So
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
People are going to learn from that and hear it. And I know there are caregivers out there currently going through it or have gone through it that can just are out there saying, wow, I know I'm dealing with it right now.
And
all right, go ahead.
There's local companies, or not companies, I'm sorry, local organization like Libby's Legacy.
Libby's Legacy is awesome.
Is awesome.
Amazing group.
Compassionate Hands and Hearts.
Also
Vanessa
an
Eccles
amazing
charity.
group.
ribbon riders,
Also amazing.
warriors on water.
Yeah.
Like there's
a lot of local. We need, so what we're all trying to work on. We need to have a nice little conduit that's easy for people to access the local services.
Yes.
Right now, unless you watch the show or you watch other shows or you have people like Jen who are out there talking about it, people don't necessarily know about Libby's Legacy or Compassionate Hands and Hearts or any of those. They're all out there, and sometimes it's just doing a Google search is overwhelming when you're going through what you're going through. So wouldn't it be nice, and we're all kind of working toward the same thing, of having a nice little central location of information that makes it easier for the person going through it and all the people around them going through it. All right, thank you for sharing that story. I appreciate that very much.
You're welcome.
All right, real quick before we head out, Maker Faire.
Yes.
Tell us about Maker Faire Orlando. I had to look it up because I had zero idea what it meant.
Well, that's good because now you know.
Now I know.
So Maker Faire Orlando is the greatest show and tell on earth. So it's anywhere from people who make soaps. It's people who make chainmail even. And I'm losing my mind right now. Oh shoot! So there are a lot of different.
Maker
things
is
in
the
Maker Faire.
so you think use the word literally.
Yes.
Maker. So if you're a maker of anything, a creator of anything,
Yes.
This is the fair. Don't let it confuse you because there's an E at the end of fair.
Yes. It's fancy.
It's a fancy name for a big fair, a big giant event, a big giant place where people who make things and create things can bring them and show their wares. I love the biggest show and tell because that's what it is.
Yes.
So whatever, if you are a creative person, or if you're interested in any of the possible creations that would be at the fair,
Yeah.
you should attend. So tell them, is it all the time? Is it once a year?
Yes.
How often?
So Maker Faire is once a year. It is at the Central Florida Fairgrounds, November 9th and 10th this year. And they take over all of the expo halls. There's combat robotics, which the Robot Ruckus, it's like if you've ever seen any of the combat robot shows, it's Robot Ruckus is new for Maker Faire this year. They have their own battle arena. People actually construct their robots and they fight. And it's very, very cool and kind of loud, and people get super excited about it. There's chainmail makers. You can learn how to pick a lock. You can learn how to solder. There's you can go in this hamster wheel and make your own snow cone. There's drones, different kind of drone events. There's kids events. There's a science bus. There's a stage. Orange County Arts and Cultural Affairs just gave them a pretty sizable grant. So it's so much fun.
Get a table, or are we past that time and we're just looking for
Yeah.
Right now we're looking for attendees. We want you to go out, and I tagged Maker Faire Orlando in this, and then
Yes.
when Jen shares the show after we're done, she'll also share it again and give you the contact and how you can go out November 9th and 10th at the
Correct.
Central Florida Fairgrounds on
Yeah.
West Colonial and John Young, right there near that intersection, pretty
Correct.
close.
Yeah.
But it sounded, so when I looked it up, honestly, the first thing I thought is we're at a Renaissance fair, right? Because I don't know. When you spell fair in the fancy way, you think Renaissance fair. But I loved it. I went in, I saw the robotics almost first, and then I saw all the list of the different kinds of vendors that can be there. It's definitely something you want to check out. I'd never heard of it before, so I love it. And it's coming up November 9th and 10th,
Yeah.
which is just in a couple of weeks, guys.
Yes.
So check it out. Check out Making Strides Against Breast Cancer tomorrow at around Lake Eola.
Yes.
And you can still register for that as a walker or as a survivor. And then, of course, check out FilmSlam. All this stuff is coming up. We'll have a schedule for you mid to late November, I imagine, and a new place. And you definitely want to check that out too.
Support independent films. Support
Yes.
local makers.
Support local and independent.
Yes.
I love that. All right. So we love to give that before we head out. We love to give shout outs to mentors. We have a big shortage in town, believe it or not. And so it's so wonderful to be a mentor, because most of us have been mentored at some point along our journey. So you can give a shout out to somebody or some people who were mentors to you.
Sure. In the film community, a couple of UCF grads were my film professors. Matthew Gunter was a great mentor for me, and Jeremiah Baumbach. Both are Emmy nominated, and just both were amazing people in the film realm. In the maker realm, Ian Cole and Candy Cole, they're a husband and wife team that are over the Maker Effect Foundation. They're local. They had to convince me that I was a maker. Like, just because filmmaker, like being a filmmaker has the word maker in it, I didn't think I was a maker because I don't know, I don't code. And I can't program a computer. I assumed that was what Maker was about, like the whole STEM thing, but it's actually more of a STEAM initiative, including the arts.
Oh, because STEAM, I like that.
Yeah, because that A is so
That's
important.
Awesome.
I prefer STEAM over STEM because the arts is what ties it all together.
Love that.
The entertainment, the edutainment aspect, they're going to bring people to science, technology, engineering, and math. So Ian and Candy Cole and Jessica King, it's a 3-person team that makes Orlando Maker Faire happen. The leadership, and then all the other volunteers, which they still need volunteers, by the way. So go to makerfaireorlando.com and sign up as a volunteer, and you'll get free entrance.
See? Oh, I like that.
So you volunteer 4 hours, you get in for the rest of the day.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah, the Ian, Candy, Jessica, Matthew, and Jeremiah were outstanding mentors.
See, you gotta get a public shout out. You gotta say it out loud, guys.
Yep.
Gratitude.
That's right.
So good for you, so good for the world, and so good for them to hear, because a lot of times we don't hear it, right?
Right.
So you've been a joy to have on. We covered a lot of ground, so you guys are gonna have to go back and watch a lot. But we will share all of those websites, Facebook pages, how you can get in touch with Jen, because she's obviously a creative, and it's a conduit for a lot of amazing things that are going on in Orlando. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. I appreciate you. Thank you for this cool wide angle thing that we had today, which was awesome. I'm going to go out and get one. We love you guys. We'll be back around 1 o'clock. Maker Faire Orlando, making strides against breast cancer tomorrow, and of course FilmSlam. So check them all out. We love you guys. See you soon. Mwah.
Mwah.